Let me ask you something. If you had unlimited money, a huge house, power, fame, and everything you ever wanted, would you finally be happy? Most people believe the answer is yes. But thousands of years ago, there was a king who had everything a human could possibly own. And yet, he was the most miserable man in his entire kingdom. And the strange cure for his unhappiness led to a discovery that shocked everyone. This is the story of the king and the happy man. And by the end of this story, you may start seeing happiness in a completely different way. Long ago, in a magnificent kingdom filled with wealth and beauty, there lived a powerful king. His palace was enormous. Golden chandeliers hung from the ceilings. His gardens stretched for miles. Servants rushed to fulfill his every wish. If the king wanted music, musicians played. If he wanted food, the finest chefs prepared grand feasts. If he wanted entertainment, the best performers came from across the land. Yet strangely, the king was never happy. Every morning he woke up feeling empty. Every night he went to bed feeling restless. Nothing seemed to bring him joy anymore. Not the food, not the music, not the luxury. The king began to worry. What is wrong with me? He wondered. I have everything. So why do I feel nothing? Soon, the king stopped smiling. His laughter disappeared, and the entire palace grew quiet with concern. One day, the king summoned the wisest doctors, philosophers, and advisors in the kingdom. They gathered inside the royal hall. The king spoke with frustration in his voice. I have gold, power, and luxury, yet I feel miserable. Tell me, how can I become happy? The doctors gave him medicines. The philosophers gave him long speeches. The advisors gave him endless advice. But nothing worked. Days passed, weeks passed. Still, the king remained unhappy. Finally, one old wise man stepped forward. He looked calmly at the king and said something unusual. Your Majesty, the cure for your sadness is simple. The king leaned forward. What is it? The old man replied, if you wear the shirt of a truly happy man, you will become happy as well. The king was excited. A happy man's shirt? That is easy. My soldiers will find one immediately. So he ordered his guards to search the entire kingdom. Their mission was clear: find a truly happy man and bring his shirt to the king. The soldiers began their search. They traveled through busy cities. They visited wealthy merchants. They spoke to powerful leaders. They even met famous artists and entertainers. But every time they asked the same question, are you truly happy? The answers always revealed something missing. One rich merchant said, I have money, but I am constantly worried about losing it. A famous performer said, people cheer for me, but I feel lonely. A powerful nobleman said, I have status, but I live in fear of my enemies. Everywhere they went, people had something, but not happiness. The soldiers grew confused. Could it be that truly happy people didn't exist? One evening, after months of searching, the soldiers passed by a quiet field near a small village. They heard something unusual: laughter. A man was sitting under a tree, singing while working on his small farm. He looked relaxed, peaceful, completely content. Curious, the soldiers approached him. One soldier asked, tell us, are you happy? The farmer smiled warmly. Happy? Of course I am. I have food to eat, fresh air to breathe, and the sun above my head. What more could I need? The soldiers were amazed. Finally, they had found a truly happy man. Excitedly, they said, you must come with us to the palace. The king needs your shirt. The farmer laughed. Then he said something that shocked them. The farmer said, I would gladly help your king, but there is one small problem. The soldiers looked confused. What problem? The farmer smiled and said, "I don't have a shirt." The soldiers stood there, completely speechless. The only truly happy man they had found in the entire kingdom owned nothing. Not wealth, not luxury, not even a shirt. When the soldiers returned and told the king the story, the palace fell silent. For a long moment, the king said nothing. Then slowly, he began to understand. The man who had nothing was happy, and the man who had everything was miserable. Perhaps happiness had nothing to do with possessions. Perhaps it had something to do with gratitude, peace, simplicity, freedom from endless wanting. That day, the king began to change the way he lived. He spent more time with his people. He appreciated small moments. He stopped chasing happiness and started noticing it. And slowly, his heart became lighter. This story teaches us something important. Happiness does not live in bigger houses. It does not live in expensive things. And it certainly does not live in endless desires. Happiness often lives in the simplest places, in gratitude, in peace, in appreciating what we already have. Sometimes the happiest people are not the ones with the most, but the ones who need the least. Now I want to ask you something. What is one simple thing in your life that brings you happiness? It could be a person, a moment, or even a quiet place. Write it in the comments below. Because sometimes, the secret to happiness is realizing how much we already have. Thanks for watching.